Hello, what's up everybody? My name is Michael, and this is a little bit of a different format of recording, as you guys can obviously tell. There is no, we're obviously not screen capturing or anything like that. This is my real hands. This is my desk that I'm using and my really old Magic the Gathering playmat that I use for a mousepad. They work excellently as a mousepad, just in case you have a random one lying around and you need a mousepad. Also goes underneath your keyboard, so that's always nice. But I wanted to, as you guys may have seen from my last blog post, which is at mygamermind.wordpress.com, the link is in the description below. Other than starting back up on Twitch, I do want to sort of make a little bit more content for my blog that's not specifically Hearthstone or just updates on what's going on in my life. I want to make actual content, and I realized just a bit ago. Okay, well, my friend, because I was at a board game night at a friend's house just this past weekend, and I was like, well, my friends and I, we play a lot of board games. We play a lot of board and card games that I think a lot of people should try out for themselves if they're into that kind of stuff. And I don't think I've ever mentioned that before, which is sort of surprising. I think I mentioned before that I did play Pathfinder. It's sort of like, pretty much like Dungeons and Dragons, the hardcore pen and paper RPG games. And my friends and I, we also play a lot of board and card games, stuff like Cards Against Humanity. But we also play sort of, I guess, hardcore board and card games. And I don't really know how else to explain it other than saying hardcore board games. When I say that, I just mean that we're not playing stuff like Monopoly, Sorry, the sort of the family-friendly type board games. We're playing stuff like this. We're playing stuff like Galaxy Defenders, like games that require quite a bit of setup, rule explaining, lots of replayability, stuff like that. Munchkin is another great card game, which I'll probably do a review just like this one. But this game in particular, Gloom, I've really enjoyed, and it's a little bit. It's definitely not as well known, I think, as some of the bigger names out there. It's obviously a little bit of a smaller game, but not only is it extremely fun, but the card design is something I really want to get into as well, because I think it's really innovative, and it's something new, and I want to make these videos specifically for people like my friends and I, who not only do we play just a crap ton of video games, but we just love gaming in general. We love board games, we love card games, any types of games you can imagine we enjoy playing. And so that's why I want to make these videos, and I have quite a few laying around that I can do videos on, and my friends and I are gonna keep buying them. And yeah, so I think if any of you guys are into this type of stuff, well, I think you'll enjoy these videos. And if you're looking for a game to bring to your sort of friends hangout or whatever, well, hopefully these videos give you some ideas on what you could possibly buy next, because there are hundreds and hundreds of great board games out there, both similar and ones like this that aren't so quite similar to each other, and I think people can have a lot of fun with them. So let's get on to the meat of things. I don't want to make the intro too long. I just sort of wanted to give a little bit of a background. I won't be doing this every time, obviously. I just want to give a little bit of a background of why I'm doing this type of video, as opposed to, obviously, recording Hearthstone or something like that. So the game is Gloom. Now, Gloom is by a company called Atlas Games. The game is actually made by Keith Baker. I guess it would be published by Atlas Games. It's atlas-games.com. I'll put a link in the description for their website. You can get it off Amazon. There's a bunch of different places you can go. I'm not sure how often people would find it in their local game store, but you can always give it a go. You never know where you might find stuff like this, but a very, very small package, as you can tell. This is the second edition, so just like video games, you can get, companies do come out with updated versions of their board games and stuff like that, with updated rules and nerfs, buffs, stuff like that. So and they do have a few expansions for this game as well, which I probably will purchase. My friends and I are really enjoying this game, and having those extra cards is always a great thing to have. But you can also tell just by the cover, all of the art is hand drawn, and it's actually pretty nice art. It's a little bit cartoony and dark. I mean, that's the name of the game. It's a pretty dark game. You can tell by the name. It's called Gloom, and I'll get into the general premise of it once we open up the box. But I guess I'll just read the description on the back. So You control an eccentric family of misfits. The sky is gray, the tea is cold, and a new tragedy lies around every corner. In Gloom, your goal is sad but simple. Make your freakish family suffer the greatest tragedies possible before passing on to the well-deserved respite of death, and tell the tale of their miserable demise. So I know it's a little bit of a dark game, but it's a game. I mean, it's the way they have the theme. It's obviously not a happy theme, but it's very funny. It's they definitely have some dark humor in this game, but this game is also great for people who like storytelling. And I'll get into that once we actually open up things. Once we get into more of the meat of the game. So the first thing you'll notice when I open this box up is just how interesting the card design is, and that sort of plays into how the just the mechanics of the game. So it comes with a little rule pamphlet. It's a fairly straightforward game to get into. The thing is, though, because of the card design, it's a fairly unique game. So you do definitely want to check that out, because this game is very. I don't think I've ever heard of or seen or played of any other game like this. So definitely take a gander through that rule book. Plus, it gives you some extra rules or rules you can cut out and things like that. But as you can tell, if you look at the card design, it's actually transparent. Which is my friend actually recommended me this game because he recommended it for our group because we play a bunch of different games, and the design of this one caught his eye. It comes with 2 little rule cards. Just in case you forget the rules in the pamphlet, they're sort of just quick look rules. Just gives you a quick summary of the basic rules, just so you can jump right in it or what have you. So there are 4 different families to choose from, and each player controls their own family. So this is technically a 4-player game. However, you can play with 5 players, and the way you do that is each player chooses one of their family members and gives it to that 5th player, which will make up a 5th family. Each player will have 1 less family to play with, but you can get an extra player in, and it can always be a good time for that. So you have the different families here, and it obviously is apparent that no, never mind. I thought I didn't have these shuffled really well. I'm not going to have enough space to do all this, but you can get the idea of how everything looks. Now, all of the different families have 5 different family members. You have purple, you have green, you have yellow/orange, and you have red. And so these are going to be this is the base of the game. So you have a family, you're trying to get them as sad as possible before killing them off. Now, yes, this is a very sad game, but it's quite fun. It's not quite fun. It's extremely fun. You can have, you'll laugh a lot during the game because a lot of the cards have flavor text on them, and some of the stuff is very, very funny, and they reference to a whole bunch of different stuff as well. So you'll have the title on the card. So each family member has a name, of course. So for example, this is Goody Czar, the nefarious nanny. Has a little bit of description, and each card, obviously, other than the modifier cards, whenever it has a picture on it or anything like that, everything is hand drawn, which is what I really like about these cards. Not only are just the design of the mechanic very, very interesting, just the fact that everything is hand drawn is very, very nice. And I like the design of it. It definitely is a gloomy design, while still being sort of like cartoony a little bit, which is pretty cool. So each text, or each family member has their own little flavor text. For example, this one's really short. This is the butler. This is Butterfield, the lurking butler. All his text says is, whatever it is, he did it. So there's little funny things here and there on the flavor text. Not only on the characters, but just in all of these cards. If they don't have any extra rules labeled on them, they'll generally have flavor text. All right, so yeah, the idea is to kill off your family. So how do we do that? Because that's where the transparent cards come in. So this, for example, is the main card you're going to be seeing in the game. This is a modifier card. So essentially what happens during the game is you have 2 actions you can take. You can play a modifier card. You can play You can pass. You can play kill card. Only if it's your first action though. There's a bunch of different actions you can do. Essentially, you only have 2 actions though. So you got to use them wisely. You could even just not do anything and just draw a card if you want to. There is a certain draw limit, and then there's also modifiers that can modify your hand limit and things like that. But how do you get points? So the idea is you have a family value. Your family value starts at 0, and you want to get that as low as possible. So you got to think in opposites. Of course, usually when you're having a good time, you want to, when you're having a good time with friends, you want to make things happy. It's a good time, right? Well, not in this game. In this game, you want to make your family value as low as possible and then kill them off, because your characters, once they're dead, at the end of the game, once the game ends when one person has killed off their whole family. At the end of the game, everyone's going to tally up their negative modifier points and add that up to create their family value. And you want the lowest family value possible to win. So, and any family member that is not dead doesn't count towards your family value. Doesn't matter how high their points are. If they're not dead before the game is over, well, you don't get points for them. So there is quite a bit of strategy involved, not only because you're actually trying to stack modifiers on top of your own cards, but it's because you can actually modify your opponent's cards with the modifying cards. And I'm gonna put some of these family members away, so we'll sort of show an example on the purple family here. And each of the families do have names. I don't remember them off top, but they mention them in the rule book. So I'll probably have to throw some of these up to the screen so you can really see the numbers and stuff like that. So this is one of the examples of a modifier card. So it has, you can see this is where the transparency sort of mechanic comes in. There is a modifier right here. It's -20. So this represents -20 points for your family value. You can play these cards on top of any character that's still alive, and it doesn't have to be your own character, because sometimes, because of the bottom effect, sometimes the effect you want to possibly play on someone else. So once I play this card, the player to your right, referring to whoever I play it on. So if I play it on someone else, it's to their player's right, or it's to their right, sorry. The player to their right, or my right, if I play it on myself, may randomly select and keep 2 cards from mine or their hand. So there is strategy involved in that sense. And then so you just lay it on top, and you can still see the picture of the family member, but it has the modifier on it now. So right now this character represents -20 points for family value. There is also a little coin symbol there. So the little coin symbol, there are some cards, there's a bunch of different symbols such as skulls, hearts with arrows through them, a goblet, and there are cards that interact with those symbols saying, okay, well, if this character is killed off, if it has a coin symbol, it's worth an additional 10 points, or -10 points, I guess I should say. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But that's what I like. This is where the sort of just, I love the design of the card game, is just the fact that they're transparent. It's just very, very interesting to me, because it's not something you see like ever. I don't think I've ever seen any card game that does something like this. Not only that, the cards are just strong in general. They're not flimsy or anything like that. So they're very well made. I really like the material they're made in. And then you can have really, really good cards like this. So there's actually 3 different levels of modifiers. Now you only get points on top of whatever is showing. So let's say, for example, this character is -20 points right now. If I play this card on top, you can... Oh, okay, well that's not a very good example. I'll look for a better example. Here we go. Here's a better example. So if I or someone else plays this modifier card on top, this card only has a -10 as opposed to a -20 on the card. And you can see that it's in the same slot as the previous card, and it goes over top. It covers it. You only get points, and things are only affected in the game by what you can see. So now that card essentially that's underneath, it essentially isn't in the game anymore. It essentially doesn't have any effect. So it's been replaced by a goblet symbol as well as -10 points. And it also has a little bit of a different symbol. So this is the little symbol here. When you look through the rules, you'll notice it'll give descriptions on each of these different symbols and what happens when you play the card. This one's a continuous effect, so this one means you have to discard one card from your hand every time you play a modifier card, including this one. So again, that's another card you can play on top of someone else. So it will make them empty their hand faster, and it'll make them have quite a few tough decisions, I guess, is what you could say. Now, they can obviously, or someone else could obviously just play another modifier on top and get rid of that effect. But, there is strategy involved in that too. So that is the basis of the game. And not only that, you have the negative modifier cards, but you also have positive modifier cards. So for example, this is a happy card. So whereas the descriptions for these sad cards, for example, this one's was sickened by a salmon. It's not a very good card, obviously, but that's what you want. You want to make your family members sad before you kill them off. Now they also have happy cards in this one in the game because you're able to play modifier cards on your opponents, and you want your opponents' families to be extremely happy. You want to make your opponents happy, and you want to make yourself very sad. So this one is had a picnic in a park. Oh, that's nice. But you can see that it has positive family value points. So, and it also has draw 2 cards. So the strategy where these cards come in is, well, okay, you can give, you can make your opponent's cards happier, your opponent's characters happier, so they can't kill them off very well, and they won't be worth as much points. But you're giving them extra cards because when you play this card, whoever you play it on draws 2 cards. So that adds an extra layer of strategy. Not only can you play these cards on opponents, and yes, you do want to make your opponents happier, but you also want to sometimes have card advantage, which is pretty interesting. Coming from a Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone background, card advantage is something I'm very familiar with. And in my group of friends, I'm really the only one playing these types of cards on myself. When my hand's really bad, I like to draw cards, and so sometimes I might play this card on myself. So if I play this card on myself, sure, this guy is worth plus 15 points right now, which is what I don't really want, but I get to draw 2 cards. Like, let's say my hand is fairly empty. Because you get to take 2 actions in the game, you might end up playing this card, and then for your second action, okay, well, I'll just play this card on top. I replaced those 2 positive modifiers, and I went to a negative 30 modifier, which is extremely good. Sure, my hand size is decreased by 1, but that doesn't really matter. I got an extra card out of it, plus I got a really high or really low point count, which is what you want. So that's where the bulk of the strategy comes, and this game is a lot of back and forth, and there's a lot of extremely fun cards in this that make things really, really interesting. So there are event cards, and that's one of the main cards that makes things interesting. I'll try and find a good one here, but there is actually like resurrect cards, for example, and this card, there's a lot of cards that sort of, if you like screwing over your friends in cards games, this one's really this game is definitely for your kind of group. Then, for example, when you want to kill off a character, you have to use one of these cards called a kill card, and this has to be your first action in your turn, unless otherwise specified. But and your character has to have a negative family value already going. So that's another way you can use the positive modifiers on your opponent's characters. Is if they have a positive family value on that character, they can't actually kill it off. They have to have a negative family value before they can actually kill it off. And this one says it's worth an additional -10 if you have the skull icon, which is what I was referring to when I was talking about those symbols there. But this is what the kill card looks like. So let's say I have a negative. Let's say this person I have here, let's say this person has a lot of negative points on it. Like right now, obviously it doesn't, but try and use your imagination here. So let's say he's worth a lot of points. I want to kill him off before anyone else can make him happy. So I'll kill him off. There's actually cards that can resurrect dead characters from the game. So my opponent might end up resurrecting this guy and then giving him positive points. So it's one way to screw over your opponent. Another really, this one's the worst. My friends and I always hated the person who played this on us. But let's say, for example, my friend let's say my opponent has a lot of points stacked on someone. And I have a feeling, okay, well, they're probably going to kill him off next turn and get a bunch of negative points, which is what I don't want. There's a couple of kill cards like this where you can see some of the kill cards even have modifiers on them. So this one is just died without cares, which is extremely sad. We should all be so lucky is the description of that. So I can play it. You can actually kill off your opponent's characters too. There's another layer of strategy right there. You can kill off your opponent you can kill off one of your opponent's characters before they can get more points. Sure, they might get a few points, but they won't get as many points as if they were to play their own modifiers on top of them first. So I could kill off my opponent's character, and you can see, of course, as with the 3 different stages of the modifiers, it covers up that negative points that he had. It covers up all the slots, actually. So even if my opponent had negative points on each one of these slots, it's all 0 now. Plus that character is dead, so it's technically out of the game unless someone or himself or herself resurrects this character. So there's a lot of fun things you can do in the game. Just playing cards on top of other cards and just the different modifiers that come into play makes for a really, really interesting game. And this game is definitely one of a kind, I think. Just the theme of it, just the way the cards are designed, and I think that this game deserves quite a bit more exposure. Now, this game did get quite a bit of exposure. For example, I don't know if you guys watch the YouTube channel Geek and Sundry, but Will Wheaton, who hosts the show Tabletop on there, he played this game with a bunch of people and they had a blast with it. So if you guys are looking for a very interesting card game that has a lot of interactivity with opponents and your own cards, definitely give this one a shot. I think not only that, it's a game where you can really just screw over your friends and just have a good time. It's one of those types of games, and I think having a good time, that's all that matters in gaming. Is if you have a good time, then I think that's the most important factor when it comes to choosing anything when it comes to gaming. It doesn't matter what other people say, whether they say it's a crap game, whether they say they didn't have any fun with it at all. If you and your group has fun with it, I think it's a win. And it's not very expensive. It was about $25 for this game. And the expansions are about $15, which I think is completely worth it. And you can obviously find deals and stuff like that if you search around hard enough. So definitely not too shabby for that. But that's all I have to say about this. Oh, one thing I forgot about this game. Like I mentioned before, if you guys like storytelling in this game, there's actually sort of not really a rule. This is an optional rule in the game, but whenever you play a card on someone, because a lot of these cards, especially when you kill off a character, and a lot of the different cards, modifiers, stuff like that, they have flavor text. For example, this one was terrified by topiary. And the flavor text for that one is, for generations, we've cut down trees at Christmas time. Now it's payback time. And when you play these cards on yourself or on another character, depending on what it is, you have to tell a story about what happened with that character, what was that character doing, because each of these characters are different. You can sort of determine sort of a personality and persona of these characters from their description that they have down underneath their picture, or you can just go off by how they look. You can make up your own story, make up your own background for the characters, background for the family, and I think that adds another extremely fun layer. My group and I didn't play with that rule. We're not really much into that factor of the game, but I think if you guys are into storytelling or you just enjoy that kind of rule, well, it's there if you guys want it. And so, as you can see by this video, there is a lot to this game. Even though the idea of it is fairly simplistic, there is quite a bit of strategy involved, and it's a lot of back and forth. Games can go on quite long, or games can go very, very short. It just depends on who kills their family first. And it's not and whoever wins is not determined by who kills their family off first. It depends on who has the saddest family in the game. So that is Gloom. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I didn't want to dive fully into every single aspect of the game. I pretty much did, but there is quite a bit more to this game than what I explained once you actually get going. I just wanted to sort of give a general idea of how the game plays out, because I want to make these sort of very in-depth reviews so you guys get a full idea of what goes on inside the boxes. Because obviously you can go online, you can go read the descriptions, things like that, but without actually seeing everything inside the box and seeing how certain things play out, you might not get a full idea of how your friends and yourself might actually enjoy the game or not. So that is Gloom. I hope you guys enjoyed this this video. I know it's a little bit different than what a lot of you guys are used to, but I think a lot of you guys, if you are like me, if your friends are like my friends, and you enjoy just playing board and card games, I think you'll enjoy these videos a lot. And I just making this video right now, I can tell I like making this video. This is the very first time I've done this before, but I can already tell I had quite a bit of fun with it, and I'm looking forward to showing you guys some more board games in the future. I think next up is going to be another card game. It's called Munchkin. That one you guys have probably heard of. There haven't been many people who love board games and card games that haven't heard of Munchkin before. You've probably seen it at your local game store because it's one of the games that has probably the most expansions I've ever seen for a card game. Because they have like Cthulhu Munchkin, they have Munchkin based off of other games, which is pretty sweet, but I'll get into that once we actually show that game off. But until then, you guys, this has been Gloom by Keith Baker, published by Atlas Games. Definitely go check it out. I think it's well worth your money if you even have an inkling that you might enjoy what you saw in this video today. Definitely worth the money for sure. I'm going to be getting the expansions for this, and maybe I'll do a review on those in the future. But until next time, guys, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think about this sort of format and things like that. I do have a Rebel HDR camera, which is going to be extremely much higher quality, but I sort of wanted to do this as a little bit of a test video, so I'm just using my webcam and OBS to actually record this, which is why it's not exactly the best quality, but hopefully you guys could still read everything at a reasonable level. But I tried reading things out anyways, just in case you guys didn't catch it on the text. But my name's Michael. I will be putting this up on my blog as well at mygamermind.wordpress.com. And this has been Gloom. Take care, you guys. And I will talk to you guys later.